Hi. So we're talking about expecting the unexpected, paradox in the first statement itself. But let's have a look at that. It's fast approaching a time when children up and down the country are being encouraged to write letters to Santa. Parents tell them if they're good, they're nice, they do all the right things, they eat all their greens, do all the prerequisite, have a good performance, they can have whatever they want, their presents of choice. And what does that prep look like? This is what a typical preparation looks like. A wish list, a glass of milk, and cookies. Wish that was enough for us to prepare for Christmas. Now, in that innocence of children, they end up making a few key assumptions, and there's some implied implicit guarantees. Let's examine them. First, Christmas Day is guaranteed for December 25th. It'll definitely not be coming anytime sooner. Good performance this year guarantees good results, which is basically presence of choice. Fair enough. Now, we always tell our children they're not competing with anyone else. That limited edition Transformer toy they want is available in unlimited quantities, mass-produced, for every single child in the world, should they choose to do so. So there are enough presents for everyone. Don't worry, no competition out there at all. Rudolph, along with the other reindeers and elves, are not planning a pre-Christmas strike, so don't worry, presents will arrive. Cookies and a glass of milk is sufficient remuneration for Santa, so don't worry about it, got it covered. Santa still cares, and he loves his job. Another assumption is that Lapland's economy will continue to thrive, and trade tariffs will not impact gift production. Fair assumption. And finally, their union with Canada is rock solid, and they'll stay in the customs union and single market forever. Now, I wish as marketers we could make such assumptions and they would be as rock solid, but sadly we can't. We live in a real world where we plan, and plan, but shit happens. Reactive in our world is considered to be a bad word. We all expected to be proactive. We all expected to have a plan for everything, every eventuality, and we always expected to come out top. We expected to have a crystal ball in our hands as marketers to be able to predict the future. Our businesses, our CEOs, our clients look at us for coming up with plans for not just this quarter, but next year, and so on and so forth. And we pride ourselves in always being prepared. Now, what we do, and hasn't changed for, I would say, thousands of years, we look at the skies when it comes to preparing. We hide behind seasonality, predictability of events. We know this will happen every year. This Christmas every year. We know how to plan for that. Got that covered. What else? What we do is we come up with these calendars. Every month, we have a list of predictable events, and we pick and choose the ones that we care about. The ones we think are consequential for us, our clients, our business, and we plan for them. Starts with January 1st, all the way to New Year's Eve. We got it covered. And then we go to our client meeting saying, sorted. Now, in British Airways, I've just planned a big, massive campaign for, I'm going to actually tout Tunisia this year. And then shit happens, right? World Cup, what an awesome event. It's coming up around the corner. We're all prepared. No one expected us to be in the semi-finals. The evidence of that fact is by the knowledge that our pubs up and down the country ran out of carbon dioxide canisters and there was no lager available. Nobody expected us to be engaged for that long. That's how expected this was. And then, well, shit happened. Now, if I am super drug or misguided, of course I'm expected to be prepared because I'm the headline sponsor of this reality TV show, right? But what if I'm one of their competitors? And more importantly, for misguided and super drug, expected to make sure that I protect my brand, I protect everything I've invested, and no competitors ride on my coattails. I want to own this space, spend a lot of money sponsoring this stuff. It's mine to protect. Like I said, shit happens. More shit happens, right? Trade tariffs, political events, all sorts. Anything can happen. We can plan as much as we want, but often we find ourselves reacting to situations. The best summer in our living memory, right? Brilliant. Not good news for everyone. Superdry has just posted a £10 million profit warning because of this weather. Nobody's buying winter jackets in the summer. Surprise, surprise. They weren't prepared for that. And don't we love regulation? We had years to prepare for this, and how smooth that execution was. Awesome. Love it. So it's about time we actually square up and accept and concede some facts. As much as we like to prepare, there are a few things out there that we just have to say that, yeah, this is real. Not all events are created equal. Not everything matters, but they're not all equal either. Most events cannot be predicted. That's also a fact. Every event has a potential of impacting your business. Even predictable events often have unpredictable outcomes. I could have prepared and planned for my event, the event that I own. I am Amazon. I've created an event called Prime Day. I own it. Data suggests not so much. If you actually see in our analysis, a white paper that we did, actually quite a few of the competitors beat them to it on their own Prime Day. So they don't always have exactly the outcome you predict or want. And finally, you're not the only one with a plan. Everyone out there, every competitor of yours is planning for exactly the same event. So then what do we do? What I suggest is, first, classify all events in these two broad categories. One, they're expected. We know about them, and we can expect them. The second are unexpected. There's no way for forecasting that, and when that happens, it just happens, but we can't plan for it. Each of these then have two further categories. Not everything matters. Not every expected event matters, and not every unexpected event matters either. So to your business, to your client, which of those are consequential and which ones are inconsequential? For the expected events, which have a consequence on your business, of course, there's no excuse not to prepare for them. So, no-brainer, prepare. But for the unexpected events, which are consequential, sad to break it to you, you'll have to react. You can't prepare for it because it's never expected, but you need to react to it. So, for example, expected or unexpected? Definitely expected. We knew this was coming, right? So, expected event, consequence for the British economy, travel economy. Visit Britain, 1.5 billion US dollars worth of revenue to be cashed. They've got to prepare for that. They did, and they mocked up. Nicely done. Ouch. I would say unexpected. Some might argue unexpected. But if you're Juventus or Nike, then yeah, you've got to react to that. So often you'll find yourself in a position where you have to react to unfortunate events, or you actually have to prepare for the ones that you expect. So that's the dilemma. I mean, obviously, I'm just one person. I've got one assistant. And I've got to prepare, and I've got to react. Whoa, what do I do? Where do I prioritize? What do I do? I would say it's not really so much of the choice, but rather what I would suggest is prepare to react. You should build a toolkit. You should have a toolkit that should make you feel empowered to A, be able to prepare for everything that is coming that you plan, that you care about, but more importantly, be able to react in near real time to events that unfold that you perhaps might not have on your calendar. All right, so how do we do this? First, I would say check your preparedness. When you get back, just kind of have a look, obviously not today, but for whenever you can, have an internal assessment, an internal audit on how prepared you are for events that you perhaps don't expect or you've chosen not to prepare for. Do you have the data? Do you have all the data that you need? What sort of data do you have access to? Is it sufficient? And what are you missing? Protocol. I would define protocol as a predetermined list of actions that kick in as soon as something happens. You should have some sort of a pre-agreed protocol there to know what to do when something happens. How many approvers do I need to go through? Now, amongst us working in agencies, we can't do anything without client approval. What does that process look like? For when we actually are in the business ourselves, even there is kind of some sort of an approval chain. So what does that look like? How quickly can I react to events? How agile am I? And what are my budgetary constraints? We all work with certain budgets. What does that look like? Events calendar. Simple question. Do I have one? How exhaustive is it? Or what's missing? And finally, when we do a post-mortem, what does that review look like? How do I report on results? How do I measure success? So an event I planned for happened. Now, how do I measure success? Was it good? Was it not so good? On a scale of 1 to 10? Whatever that might be, how do I measure success? And do I have a learning framework? Do we learn from past events? Do we learn from post-mortems? Do we apply those learnings to next time? So what I would then suggest is, for data, my recommended data set, something that I don't leave home without, is first, your own performance data, especially a trended view. You should have as much historical data as you possibly can. Then, competitor data. It's very important to have access to some sort of a CI platform, comparative intelligence platform, that gives you a full 360 view of what's happening in the marketplace. While you can very well tell me what's happening in your accounts today, this morning, last week, but how's the marketplace reacting to it? And finally, Google Trends, I also find is a really, really good resource for it. Combine these three, which should give you enough to be able to prepare, and more importantly, also react for when you need to. Protocols. Now, I would suggest 2 sets of pre-approved protocols. With our clients or internal stakeholders, we should make some implicit agreements. For the expected events, of course, we've got our marketing plan, that's all signed off, brilliant, job done. But even for the unexpected events, we should kind of have a few templates for, all right, if this happens, I should be able to invoke X. So what you've got to do is define approvers. We should always know who the approvers are. It's not when something happens, oh, who needs to sign this off? How many people? Oh, the person is on holiday. Oh, okay, their boss is not there. Oh, somebody's on maternity leave. No. You have to, at any given time, always know who the approvers are. Ideally, one, especially for the unexpected events, you should appoint a single piece of authority who should be able to respond to you in a preset SLA. Create something like an event approval template. I've created a sample here. And that can just be a simple one-pager, almost just like a form, wherein you just kind of have a brief description of what that event is, what priority is it, what sort of requested turnaround are you asking for? Is it something that you need to react to today within the next couple of hours, or do you have a couple of days to react to this? Who is it prepared by, who the approver is, and who all is on CEC, but more importantly, what the summary is, the potential impact on brand reputation, potential impact on revenue, brief action plan, risks and mitigation, and finally the budget required. Create your own version of this template, something that you could just quickly fill out, send to the approver, get a quick response, all right, good to go. Have some agreed internal SLAs. Okay, for high priority things, need to be looked at and responded to within a couple of hours. Medium or low, so on and so forth. And finally, have some discretionary budget available and negotiated with the client. Always, for when we plan, now you're going to be planning next year, have some discretionary budget. Don't use it. That's exactly for events which you do not expect, that you might need to react to sometimes in real time. Asking and getting a sign-off for budget can sometimes be the hardest thing, especially, I guess, our agency folks would agree. So have some discretionary budget available. Then, events calendar. I would suggest having an events calendar which is rather exhaustive. It should enlist all the seasonal events, right? So that's easy. And then obviously you're going to mark out the consequential ones, the ones that you care about, the ones that you will plan for. But I would also suggest on there have all the inconsequential events as well in great length, as in at least just have them. Why? Because if something happens, you'd be able to look as to why. These events really help explain the fluctuations or the spikes and troughs in your performance sometimes. You changed nothing. Nothing's really happened. You weren't expecting anything. Suddenly, there's a spike on certain terms, or there's a certain dip in your market share or impression share, whatever that might be. And you're scratching your head as to what happened here. The first thing I would do is look at my calendar of inconsequential events, plot them, annotate your trends, and suddenly you'll kind of start to see a story emerge. Oh, I didn't realize, hang on, this might not be so inconsequential after all. Also have the non-seasonal but expected events. Events that just happen one-off. I would even put the Football World Cup in that event. Yes, it's seasonal in a way every 4 years, but it's every 4 years. You don't have to worry about it for the next 3 years, perhaps. So have them in there. Work cross-functionally with other departments as well. We're all digital marketers in this room, but work with planners like in agencies across your planning teams on what's been planned for the PR events, any sponsorships that might be happening, offline, any TV campaigns or slots. If you are Just Eat and planning to sponsor, I don't know, Britain's Got Talent, I think you should know about it. Absolutely. And it's something that you're expecting, and you should have a plan for it. And finally, often ignored, competitor events. Now, you might not always have insight into competitor events, but some are rather public because they start making a big shout about it early on. Now, do you choose to react to it, or do you choose to plan to it? Either way, it will affect you. So I'll leave it to your best judgment of what you want to do, but I would say always include in your calendar events competitor events as well. Whether you do something or not, again, you might be able to explain your performance dips or spikes for when that happens. And finally, I would say whenever the event concludes, whether it was expected or unexpected, whether I planned for it, whether I reacted to it, whether I did nothing, either way, a review is important. So the post-mortem should typically include impact on brand, impact on revenue, the ROI that you got from the event, and again, often forgotten, competitor activity. You had an event, you planned for it, you executed it. How did the competitors react to it? And more important, learning. Never be perfect. More can always be done. You might smash your targets, but sometimes you might not. Either ways, you want to record what you did, how you did, you have to take a snapshot of what really happened and kind of store that for next time. So this is a continual process. Planning is not something you just do and then you say you're done. You always have to keep executing it. So you've got to plan, you've got to execute. And even after you execute, you might find yourself reacting. You might execute and a competitor might actually respond, and then you have to react in real time. And learn. And then repeat. Finally, what I would say is whatever you do, share. As someone wise once said, teaching makes you learn twice. Share like our next guest speakers and the panel shall be doing, sharing their wisdom, their experience, their plans. We're all in this together. So the more you share, the more we can learn, and the more best practices that we can come out with. Thank you. Just want to pause if there are any questions. The best reaction campaign, I would say, was the KFC one. I think we all remember that one. KFC, fried chicken, ran out of chicken. That's a bit of a disaster, right? And then the immediate response, press online, the way they did, they just accepted it, took it on the chin, made light of the matter, but more importantly, apologized to the customers. But then the way they turned that around, across their creative agencies, the media buying, and the planning, and the client approval happened, I would say, almost in real time. And that was, I would say, a perfect example of how it can be done if you've planned it and you have contingencies. Cool.